views and opinions expressed in this podcast by the host or the guest do not necessarily reflect the views of Paranormal Buzz Radio or its sponsors. Use of any material produced by Paranormal Buzz Radio without express written consent is strictly prohibited. For information on everything Paranormal Buzz Radio has to offer, visit our website, paranormalbuzzradio.com. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Listener discretion is advised.
Hi, I'm Caitlin Russell. Welcome to the Healing Light Podcast. I am a psychic intuitive who's been reading tarot cards for over 25 years. I'm also Reiki certified. Join me as I read cards, share intuitive messages, promote healing, and much, much more. So, hi everyone. Welcome to the Healing Light Podcast. I'm your host, Caitlin Russell. Always, I thank you for listening in and being here. And I thank Shay from Paranormal Buzz Radio for being our sponsor and our host. Tonight, I have a special guest. He is a psychic medium, and he's amazing. His name is Jay Bowers, and we're going to talk about a subject that's really kind of sensitive and touchy. And that's grief. By the way, if you want to catch me, you know where to find me, but in case you don't, I'm the Healing Light NH all over Facebook, Instagram. I don't know if you've even heard of Lemonade, but that's kind of new. I'm on there. I'm on TikTok. I think where else? I sometimes tweet, but not really. And I have an email address, healinglight1@gmail.com, in case you're interested in being a guest or booking a reading with me, or if you have any other questions just related to being a psychic or medium or Reiki and all that good stuff. Jay, welcome. Welcome to the Healing Light Podcast. So before we get into it, I just wanted to, when we talk about grief, which is going to be a really interesting discussion, and we will get to how folks can find you. But why don't you just start by telling folks a little bit about yourself and what you do and everything like that, just like a brief introduction so people know who you are.
Sure. I'm Jay Bowers. I'm a certified psychic medium and intuitive consultant. I started seeing spirit around between the ages of 3 and 4. And I've had a lot of things go on within my life, a lot of tragedies and whatnot that has taken place, and a lot of losses. It became to the point where involved in a lot of situations which I would pick up feelings, emotions, behaviors, things of that nature. Didn't know what exactly was going on, and would go to the doctors and think that I had all these things going on with me, and come to find out that I was an empath, picking up on other people's pains, emotions, and whatnot. I studied from a school called Holistic Studies Institute back in 2015. In 2016, I became certified and a professional, and been doing this ever since.
Oh, thank you for that. So, wow, since you were 3 or 4, that's amazing. Yeah, I can remember being really young too, and talking to spirits and all that. And I can remember a little bit later, my mother saying to me, I'm not going to let you hang out with so-and-so because you always come home and like you're not in a good mood, or there was a trauma going on in that house. And I was like her only friend. And I realized looking back that I was an empath. And so, yeah, I can relate to that now. It's interesting that different things and different signs that are there. So, and you're a certified psychic.
Yes.
So tonight's topic is a little bit of a touchy one, but I really think it's important to talk about because especially with us being psychic mediums, we get a lot. This is like what I think the majority of people who come to us are looking for help with is they are grieving the loss of a loved one and family member, whoever. And I think that we can really make an impact being in what we do, helping people to heal, and we'll get into that as well. I wanted to talk about like grief, the grieving process, and how different people react, and maybe some misconceptions and common misconceptions about grief. So I think when I look at grief, and Jay, you can tell me whether you agree with me or not, or if you feel a different way. To me, can grieve over a loss of someone who's actually passed. But, you know, I've also grieved over ending relationships and, you know, letting go of a job or whatever. So when we talk about grief, to me, it's something that impacts you really in an emotional way. But I think the most common form of grief that we often talk about is when there's someone who's passed, and when there's a death that happens and you're close to someone.
Yes.
So yeah, I would think you would agree with that, wouldn't you? That's pretty common, the form of grief that we get most requests for help with.
Absolutely. I feel being also an empath, we go into a deeper level with that as well, and the connection and energy, because everything is based on energy. And, you know, it's a process when we grieve, you know, the denial and the depression, anger, and bargaining. And everybody's different, and it comes in and out like waves. And, for me, I've come to learn that usually your first year when you lose somebody particularly close to you, and I call that the coastal year, because you have your family, your friends, your support with you throughout the first year to help you get through the birthdays, the anniversaries, and the holidays. It's the second year where everybody else seems to go back to their own life. And now the second year is the hardest, because now you're feeling these feelings deeper. You don't have the people reaching out to you as much to see how you're doing, and a lot of different emotions play through that process. One of the things that I love doing is getting confirmation through chills, especially reading clients, and I don't remember all my clients because we read for so many people, and there's just so many things that go on, and it's a process. So for me, the one particular client that I had, I did a house party, and she was a Chinese female, and I had touched on that her mother had passed, and she confirmed that she did. And I said to her, I don't understand language, especially foreign language. And I said, I'm getting this word that keeps coming over and over and over again. May I share that with you? And she says, yes. And I said, forgive me, because I don't know what this means. And I said the word, and she just started crying, because she said, my mother used to call me that when I was a little girl. And the experiences that you have with different clients, the feelings, the channeling, everyone's unique and different. And I look forward to readings, because you never know what you're going to get.
Yeah, I would agree with that. That's amazing. What a message. And, you know, just, I mean, to know something that was a different word or language than English it just shows how profound messages from Spirit are in those who pass. You know, I didn't think about, you make a good point about the first year. You think to yourself, okay, they would have turned this age or, Christmas or whatever. But we do, in the beginning, I think people tend to have more support and when it's fresh and new. And then time goes on, and it's not anybody's fault, they're so supportive, but in your mind, it's still fresh and raw. But, this time has passed. So I didn't think about that, but makes me think about, the first year and and going through actually year two. You touched on something which I've had some thoughts about, and that's, I'm sure you've heard of her. She did the stages of grief. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. She talks about the 5 stages of grief: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. Now, that's not to say that has to be exactly in that order. It really struck me because people do grieve differently, but there usually are some stages that people go through. I mean, nobody wants to believe at first that it happened, so that's the denial. And then you get angry. It's a natural emotion. That happens. Bargaining, from what I understand, is when you say, well, if only I had waited 5 minutes to leave the house, the accident wouldn't have happened. Or if I had said this, or if I'd done that. Then you go into a depression, and then acceptance. I disagree with acceptance because I don't think you can't ever accept or get over it. I think grief has its own timeline. I think you can, what I want to think of, not compartmentalize, but I call it putting a place in your heart where you can have those feelings, that it's not so overwhelming and painful that you can't go about everyday life. Do you agree with that?
I do agree. And I also, as far as acceptance, I feel that when we are getting ready to leave the physical plane and wind up going into the spiritual world, I feel like, again, it's a process. But I also feel like toward the end, you do still accept. You get to the point where you accept, because it's like, what else are you going to do? And I feel that people get to a place where I've witnessed firsthand with my mother, who was passing away with terminal brain cancer. And I watched her in and out, and she got to the point where she was unable to talk. And right there and then I looked at my mom and I said, Mom, I just want to let you know that it's okay to go. Because your loved ones are right there to help you, to greet you, to bring you through to the white light. And so I do feel like toward the end, you do get to the point where you accept and you see your loved ones and you start feeling at peace. Yeah. And knowing that you're safe.
Yeah, that's a good point. Okay, so I get that. So I can maybe think about it in a different way. I know when my fiance's aunt, she was terminal, and we moved her in here, instead of going to hospice, and we took care of her, and was there for her at the very end. She said basically that she was ready. That she was ready. She had stage 4 kidney failure. She had other issues going on, and it was just, she was not in a good way at all. So being home, being with her family, I think offered her a sense of peace. And I think it offered us a sense of peace as well, because we were there for her, and we could, watch her as she transitioned. And I just remember her looking up. The very last thing she did was she looked up like she could actually see someone or someone was there. So I knew that it was very close. You know, it was just
you brought up a
maybe.
good.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say you brought up a really good point. I've had a client come to me and call me and said, Jay, you know, so my mother is so and so. She's so ill, and I'm tired of watching her suffer. What's the next step, or what is there? And I said, I'm getting this person, and I said the person's name, and it starts with a C or whatever it was. And I said, she's waiting for this particular person to show up. And when he does, then she'll feel at peace and we'll be ready to go. And she called me a week later and she says, Jay, I want to let you know that the name that you gave me, or the initials, that person did come. And then after he came, she was able to pass finally. And I said, yeah, so certain people wait for certain people to show up to be able to feel at peace, to get that kind of closure, to see him one last time.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, I know for me, I recently had a reading, and it was sudden passing. We'll just say that, and it was her father. And she just was at a loss, flummoxed, did not know why or when or who, what. And, you know, it was just very reassuring to her to know that he was not ready to go. That's not saying that he was no longer suffering. You know what I'm saying? He was. And that there was nothing that she could do to prevent it from happening. She was feeling tremendous guilt over it. He was there to say, you know what, you know, don't did everything you could to help me. Don't feel guilty about that. And you know, it was just a powerful message. You know what I remember when my dad passed, for me, I was angry. That was, I think I went through all the stages, but I was angry. He and I had been estranged for a while, and we were rebuilding our relationship. And then had a heart attack, and he made it through surgery. The doctor said he had a 1% chance of surviving, but he survived. But then probably a week later, he was on his way to cardiac rehab. He had a heart attack and died in the elevator. And I just remember feeling anger. I think I was just mad because, you know, he up and dies on me and we're rebuilding our relationship. I can laugh at it now. Because I realized he had no choice in the matter. You know, I'm sure that if he wanted to stay, he would have. But I think that talk about emotions. You can feel anger. That's okay. That's an emotion. You can feel sadness. You know, there are some people who don't necessarily cry. They come to us and they're not crying. You know, they don't. So I think people look at it like, well, I must be very different for me, or something is off because I'm not sobbing here on the couch, but you're still grieving nonetheless.
Yes.
So I think it's really important for people to recognize that there's all sorts of reactions for grief. Not one size doesn't fit all.
Right. Emotions are okay. It's all on what you do with them. And I'm speaking this because I have firsthand experience with when I was a kid or younger. In my teenage years, I was troubled. And I was an alcoholic and an addict. At 16, I had gone to a rehab for 6.5 months. And in there, it was an awakening and changed my life around. So there I was able to understand better behaviors and emotions and motives and agendas. And Monday through Friday, it was basically nonstop counseling. And I remember one of the things that rehab particularly, instilled in our heads is always check yourself, check your motives, check your agendas. Another thing that helped me out a lot too is at the age of 5, my father left. And at that time, we didn't have a lot of money, so Mom would bring us to, the mall. And at that point, I feel that my mother knew that I had some kind of abilities going on, especially seeing what I did and telling her a lot of stuff that was going on. We would go to the mall and we would people watch. And at that point, my mother taught me a lot about facial expressions, movements in bodies, body language, and would ask me questions like, what do you think that person is going to do next? Or what do you think that person's about to say? So I, at a very young age, was able to have my mother kind of mentor me in this, even though I didn't fully understand what was going on. It was the same thing when I was married, that my ex-wife used to call me a hypochondriac because I would have all these feelings and I thought that I was having a heart attack and all this stuff. And I would go to the doctors and they would hook me up to all these machines and whatnot, and I couldn't figure out what's going on. And once they did that, nothing was going on. Everything was perfect. And I didn't realize at that time that I was picking up other people's emotions and feelings and stuff like that were around me. It wasn't until, again, 2015 when I started taking my psychic development classes, learning about my abilities and whatnot, that I was able to put 2 and 2 together, realizing that, I was an empath and I was picking up on everything. I've always been extremely sensitive to my surroundings, and especially when you get into this kind of subject matter, you start studying more things and more things lead to more things. So, but like zodiac signs, I started learning about them at the age of 15 and have been studying and practicing them for quite some time. And I'm a Taurus, so being a Taurus, I'm very grounded, but I'm also very extremely sensitive to all my surroundings. And so there's just so much on the subject matter. And one of the things that I wanted to point out too is that one of my greatest mentors is John Edwards. And besides my teacher, Stephen Robinson, they have taught me quite a bit. And one of the things that John Edwards had says that a true practitioner in this subject matter knows when to shut it down. So a lot of people think, oh, you're a psychic medium, you're 24/7. No, I'm not, because it's very energy draining. And to be in tune all the time, it just sucks the energy out of you. And I'd rather not know people's business and go about, quote unquote, being so-called normal. So no, I'm not a 24-hour, 365 psychic all the time. I know when to turn it on. I also know when to shut it down.
Yep, exactly. Me too. Yep, the same way. And the same thing. I'm a Taurus too, by the way. So funny that we're connected that way. Yep. So feeling things deeply and all that. Yeah, totally get that. And yeah, you do have to tune into people, but you have to protect your. I always say protect your energy. I surround myself in a white light, and that way, I'm protected as well. So when we talk, when people want to come to a psychic or a medium, how would you say that we can help someone through the grieving process?
Through the grieving process. One, that it's natural. And I try to help people, guide them to, if you're going to go to a psychic medium, there's things you need to look out for. And one of them is particularly, it's called fishing for information. And when a psychic sits there and asks you a question like, do you have a grandmother in spirit? That's the way of fishing for information. So be aware of that stuff too. And especially people that scam for money and, you need to come back in a couple of weeks, and just keep having you come back to get more money out of you. Those are things that you need to be aware of too. I feel particularly that I'd rather listen to somebody who has lived life on life's terms than somebody who's read books. That's for me personally. I like to go to somebody that's experienced a lot of things in their life and can relate. So that's something that, somebody needs to be aware of, as well as paying attention and listening to your intuition. A lot of folks tend to avoid that and don't understand that completely, and trust that, because that's like your best friend. So it's a little bit, I guess, a little taste. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. So I know for me, I don't want information. Person that I'm reading for, I need to be able to tune in. I love when you say it's energy, because I am such an energy person. I absolutely, totally believe everything is energy. We have positive, sounds like a cliche, but it's so true. Positive energy, negative energy. I believe in all of that. And I just really feel that we are there to help with the grieving process, maybe provide, I don't know about closure, but maybe some form of closure. But when you go to someone, it should not be fishing for information as well. It shouldn't be all about, well, give me money and then, come back and see me in 2 weeks. Yeah, no, that's not it. Because I've had sessions with people, and what I say to people is, look, just because our session is ended doesn't mean basically that our relationship has ended. So I'll tell people, if you have a question, follow-up question, come to me, and we'll talk about it. And that happened recently with someone who lost his fiance. I said, if you have any questions, and so he did. He came to me and he told me about an incident with his son who talks to dead people and all that, and that he talks to his fiance as well. And I just really feel that, yes, you're doing an energy exchange and you're meeting with someone, but you're also developing a relationship, because you're really investing your time in their loved ones and messages. So, I feel that it's really important that don't give information unless we ask you to, because I'll ask you to resonate if it sense to you. And I'll tell people, It's okay if it doesn't, it's okay if it doesn't, because, you're talking to spirit and like this one will pop up or this one will pop up, or they'll talk about something completely off the wall or something that seems to have nothing to do with anything. And then I'll often tell people, tomorrow or a few days from now, this will make sense. They come back to me and say, oh yeah, okay, I get it, what you said. And that happened with the gentleman that I read for. Said that I had said something about that a little boy, I saw her with a little boy, with her arm around a little boy. And so that's when she told me that his son actually is visited by a little boy with dark hair and is with his fiance who passed. And I'm just like, wow, see that. And it didn't dawn on him until afterwards. He said that didn't make any sense at the time, but now after what happened, it made total sense. So I really think we do. Now, I get this, and I'm sure you do too, signs from loved ones. People will say, like, I keep seeing the same numbers, 333, 111. My number is 1111. I always see 1111.
Yes. Synchronicities, absolutely. And the key is when speaking with your loved ones and your guides and whatnot up there, is to ask. And that is the key word, ask. Don't be afraid to ask. the one thing that I loved about my school was that it practiced, and it was based on ethics. And that is one of the things out of all the other, popular psychic mediums out there, John Edwards practices ethics. And that is extremely important when getting readings and things of that nature done, because I've had clients come to me, and I call them cold readings. I couldn't get anything from them. I did not charge them. And then I've also let them know that I'm not your healer. I can't heal you. Can't help you. And I, suggest, maybe another colleague for them to go to. So to me, ethics is extremely important when finding a psychic medium who practices it. The other thing that I wanted to talk about a little bit too was one of the hardest things that happened to me back in 2016. My daughter had passed, and I got a phone call. I kept sensing the day before, August 1st. I never forget it. August 1st, 2016. That whole day I woke up and I kept feeling something going on, very anxious, like something was going to happen to one of my kids, and I couldn't put my finger on it. And I was involved in a 15 car or whatever plus pileup. And the whole day I kept thinking, even after that accident, something's going on with one of my kids. Well, the next morning I got done with my run and I went to sleep. And about an hour later, I get a phone call from my sister, who happened to be best friends with the dispatcher for the police department at the time, and was one of the first ones that was notified. After that had happened, I had reached out to a colleague of mine, and she had told me specifically not to go to the site, being a medium and what we do, because we pick up on impressions and whatnot. I was hard-headed and didn't listen, and I wished I did. So I went to the site, and 2 months after that, I had nothing but nightmares and kept seeing what happened and took place visually. And that was extremely hard. Something like that, it tends to fog you over a little bit. And I say this too, and it goes back to ethics. When you're not feeling well, don't give readings, because your energy is involved with how you're feeling and whatnot, and you don't want to bring your own personal stuff into the reading for somebody else. So I always suggest, and when I'm not feeling well or I'm not in the right mind frame, I reschedule readings because I don't want to bring my stuff into theirs and have it affect them, because I'm all about meaningful readings and about the client. It's all about the client. So.
Absolutely. And I'm sorry for your loss. And that's such a tragedy and absolutely horrific. So my heart goes out to you. And yes, when it comes to ethics, I've actually rescheduled because I wasn't feeling well, and I didn't want to project that on. I want to have a clear head, clear mind. I meditate beforehand. I use, I don't know if you use flora water or not, but I do. Light some incense. I use my Philly wand, and I wave it over me, and I meditate, and I do all that. If I'm not in that good space, then I don't do it. I just don't. And, so I've had to do that a couple times because I was not feeling well. And ethics to me are just absolutely critical. And, you're giving your whole heart and soul out to someone, and you want to just lay it bare out for them.
A lot of folks don't seem to understand, before like doing galleries and readings and whatnot, it's a process for a psychic medium. We have to get in that right mind frame, and there's steps like lighting incense and praying and meditation and going for walks. For me, when I do galleries and stuff like that, I have to close everybody off and just focus on the energy without the distractions, because I want to be able to be my best for people with the best intentions.
Yeah, totally agree. Absolutely, totally agree. So I do the same. I do the same thing. I mean, you just have to really tune into that energy and do all that. Now, I asked my brother. I said, I'm going to be going on with psychic medium Jay about grief. I said, do you have any thoughts on that? And he said, yeah. I said, his wife, my sister-in-law, Kendra. He said she can be sad when she loses a good friend, but not necessarily if she were to lose someone like a parent or like that. And I thought that was really interesting. And I think about when celebrities pass and how people are all over social media. They could be totally oblivious to someone close to them dying, but they open up their hearts when a celebrity, like when Robin Williams went, I was impacted by that. One that hit me really hard for some reason was Kate Spade. I don't have anything with Kate Spade. I don't buy her pocketbooks or anything like that. Her death just had this profound impact on me. And it was just, but I think I felt a little bit differently when my father passed. And part of me is I just wonder, why that is. But I have yet to have somebody come to me and say they want to talk about the celebrity dying. They want to talk about their family members passing away. But, I think when, celebrities and people become larger than life, I think when your loved ones become almost larger than life, you put them on a pedestal way, and they become these other beings rather than human beings. I just thought I'd just put that out there, But anyway, yeah, go ahead.
Absolutely. I was going to say there's so much, and I'm in the process of writing a book now on my life, my entire life. And, they say be careful what you ask for and what you wish for, because that is so true. And I remember when I was younger, I said, I wish I can experience as much stuff as I can so I can be able to help other people and things of that nature when I get older. I wish I didn't say that, but I also faced my consequences and whatnot too. And so those consequences and those experiences help me to be able to help people out today and to guide them so they don't make the same kind of mistakes. And it's all about free will too. We can only do so much. We can only say so much. It's up to the person whether or not they're going to choose to go that path or not. Because I've had a lot of people say, Jay, you told me something and that didn't happen. And I would ask them, okay, did you do what was suggested or whatever? No, I went, okay, well, there's your answer. Because I get my messages and everything from up above. So I'm only passing on to you what I'm receiving. And they know better than we do. And I'm just putting it out there for you. And it's ultimately up to you or your free will what you're going to do with that.
Yeah, that's a perfect way to put it. Similar. For me, I had childhood trauma related to abuse. So what I vowed when I was in the process of going through my grieving, because I had lost my childhood, lost so much, and just had everything torn away from me. I was rebuilding, and I said, that's when that was when my psychic abilities really started to bloom, was when I started my process. So I said, there's going to be a day when I can help someone through my experience. This is my experience, but if I share something with you that happened to me, maybe it will help. But they have to be willing and ready to receive that message. If you're not ready to receive the message, then I can't help you. But maybe when you are ready, you can go from there. But Yeah, you are helping people, and you're writing a book. That is so cool. Wow.
And I say this to everybody. I feel everybody should write their own story, whether they have it published or not, because I feel that writing your own story is very therapeutic, and it gets stuff out and helps you to heal and deal. So I've always said too that we had to have gone through and done these things to be able to help people out today. So our experiences that we had to go through is really impacting and helping others out today. And that's what I'm all about. I want to be a coach. So.
Yep, absolutely. Yep. And I applaud you for that. You just got a big round of applause for me. You can't hear me, but I am clapping my hands for you. Yeah. I really feel like I want to get my story out. I'm writing in my journal. For me, very scary. Sometimes like, Caitlin, you must be mad for doing this. But I am recording videos and I'm posting them on TikTok and Instagram, and they're just messages that I really feel people need to hear. If it's based on, what my experience is and what helps me. And I really feel there's messages that they need to hear it. James, I really feel that people really need people.
And I feel with when you write your own book, you're giving your experiences out, because I know for myself when I was younger and I was going through my traumas and tragedies and whatnot, I always felt alone. I felt like I'm the only one going through this. So I feel like putting my experiences in this book is going to be able to shed light and help others realize and recognize that I'm not alone here. There's somebody else, going through it too. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you're not alone. And this is part of the reason why I did this podcast too. It's because I knew that there would be people who would want to hear my message. So that's, I knew that I wanted to have people like you on who are inspirational, who have gone through it. You've lost a family member that was close to you, and you've been through rehab, you've done all that, you've been in recovery. So you know what that's like. And I just want to say to people, you are not alone. It's been a really fascinating discussion. I feel like you and I could probably talk another hour about this.
Oh yeah.
But I just want to say that Jay is definitely available if you want to get in contact for a reading. And Jay, if people want to contact you, like, how do they find you? Where are you?
I'm on Facebook and Instagram. I'm on Jay Bowers, Intuitive Medium, and I'm also Intuitive Medium Jason Bowers, as well as on Facebook and Instagram. You can also reach me at Intuitive Medium Jason at yahoo.com.
All right, excellent. Thank you so much. I will definitely be referring people to you because I think you're awesome. Awesome psychic medium, and I'm so glad we met. Glad we had this discussion. Just one last word of advice that I would have for anyone who's looking to get to the grieving process is just time. Time is your friend. To me, time is your friend, and healing is not linear. It has all these bumps, the road, and it's ugly and it's really gross at times, but time is your friend. So do you have any last words of advice or wisdom those out there who are grieving, or for anyone who wants to get in contact with the psychic medium?
I think you touched on a really good point just right there is the fact that everybody grieves on their own time and don't feel the pressure from other people, saying things like, oh, you should get over it by now, or you should be done with that. Everybody grieves on their own time. So take as much time as you need, as you want. And it's okay to not answer texts or phone calls, to have time for yourself, and take as much time as you need, because it does come in waves. At first you're thinking you're great, and then, a few months later, it hits you all of a sudden again. And that's okay, because that's also a little reminder from them saying, hey, I'm here. It's okay. They're comforting you. So, so on your own time. Don't let people rush you or push you. No.
I totally agree with you. Okay. So we have to wrap this up, but I wanted to thank you again for being my guest. You were and I knew you would be. I get it, because I'm a psychic. I knew it. I knew you would be amazing and awesome, and you are. So
Thank you very much.
I will wish you. You're welcome. I will wish everyone out there a great night, and I welcome your questions, feedback, people you want to have on the show. Reach out to me, message me. You gotta know where to find me. So, and my podcast is first and third Tuesday of every month at 7 p.m. And it's found everywhere you can find your podcast: Apple, Spotify, Amazon, you name it. I'm out there. All right, have a good night, everyone. Thank you, Jay.
Thank you.